I'm calling us to order.
Thank you.
We have two items of business. We have no public hearings. The first item of business will be to decide whether we shall rehear. Enfield ZBA case Z 241001, in which, it's just weird, my printer is printed my page blurry, and my eyes are very confused.
That should be DC Development Special Exception.
Thank you. TC Development Special Exceptions, and it's the desert. Thank you. In which the desserts are appealing our decision.
We need a motion to get it on the table.
Before we do, I'll just say a few words. Say that they have standing, they're in a butter, actually standing in matters of appealing our decision. Anybody who's affected by the decision, including town officials, has standing to appeal. Somebody who's across town and doesn't like the decision, that doesn't qualify as standing. Somebody who's likely to be affected by the decision, those people have standing. So we do occasionally have questions about that, so I thought I'd put that out there. What's that?
I had to sit out
Why?
for the appeal.
Okay. Celie wants to recuse herself.
Yes,
Okay, she's an alternate board member. We have 5 full board members, so you're okay?
yes.
All right.
Because I even.
All right. If you're gonna recuse yourself, it might be more clear if you're seated in the audience as a member of the public,
Fine. That's fine.
if you don't mind.
No.
Okay, so why would we rehear something? We would rehear something if we thought we'd screwed up, basically. If we believe if the party bringing the appeal can show us that, in their application that we violated the law, we were unreasonable in our deliberations, or we did not follow our rules of procedure. Basically, it's an opportunity for us to correct an error inexpensively for the town and for all the parties involved, and to put the record right quickly and efficiently. We're not allowed to rehear issues simply because somebody disagrees with our decision. And so the question for you is going to be whether you think the desserts simply disagree with our decision, or if they have raised points of if they're telling us where we screwed up somewhere. So is their application telling us you made these mistakes of procedure? I don't believe we are allowed to rehear an issue if they simply disagree with our decision or disagree with our rationale. But sometimes it can be a gray area. We may, a board may be completely unreasonable about a matter. And if they are, and the appealing party can show that, then a judge further down the road may remand and say, you need to rehear this. So that's really what we're looking at. Do you think we did something badly enough that a judge down the road is going to say you need to rehear this? It's expensive for the town if we have to go to court. So I'm not sure if I should bring that up as something to keep in mind, but don't be too quick to say no. On the other hand, we can't be too quick to say yes either, because that would not be fair to the people that we granted a decision for. That's all I got.
Need a motion to put it on the table, and I can't figure out how to put it.
I'll move to deny the application for a rehearing.
Okay,
We have a second for discussion. Discussion? Yeah, Bill seconded it. Let's have discussion.
keep thinking about it. And I think we heard everybody that wanted to talk. We followed the correct procedure. And we came to a reasoned, very careful decision. Is that good enough?
Is that what you want to say?
That's what I want to say.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure the proper language to raise this, but perhaps it's a point of order. The agenda calls for the approval of minutes before the motion of rehearing. Should we do that to ensure that we have accurate records of the hearing?
If you're concerned, we can do that, but we've got this matter on the table already. I don't think that there's any corrections to the minutes that are going to affect this proceeding.
I disagree respectfully.
Do you?
Yes.
All right. Let's table this motion and we'll go to the review of the minutes.
Okay.
Did not find a single error in the minutes, Whitney. It's beautiful.
So no technical or syntactical errors, but I think
I found
Reagan.
no errors.
I think Whitney, as always, did a remarkable job. Thank you. I had a couple of just minor things, starting with line 117. It says, she said that she felt the 3 apartment buildings could significantly impact. Not sure exactly what was meant there. I think what was probably meant there was she felt the 3 apartments could significantly impact the runoff. If people have the minutes in front of them,
do we know who said that?
I'm sorry.
Do we know
Or
who
just
was?
that they could have an impact. Perhaps have an has been dropped.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I think that is, yeah, Cavan is,
It was Ms. Buffet that was speaking at the time.
I can double check the recording too, but.
Okay,
I'm
thank
fairly
you.
certain I spelled it.
If it's okay to move on to line 126. This again is, I'm sorry, excuse me, this is Ms. Dessert at this point speaking, and she says, it says, she asked why Route 4 is a desirable location. She raised concerns about neighboring properties impacts beyond Maple Street. She's in a butter from the Route 4 area, which the appraiser did not address in Mr. McKinnon's letter. You know, I'm not sure why I have that for a correction. She asked why Route 4 is a desirable location. I guess I'm not understanding the context of that. She asked why Route 4 is a desirable location.
For the apartment buildings, I would assume.
Okay.
Would you like the minute taker to review the recording and find out what the context was and flesh that out a little
Yeah,
more?
you could- yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right. The next one is 214. I'm sorry, there's no one.
There's no line 214.
No, not that's
That's the problem.
not. The next is 270. This is one that I think could really impact what we're about to talk about. So starting in line 270, I'll read it. It says, members discuss requiring another appraisal, including all surrounding properties and whether a local appraiser could be used. Members reviewed the language of Mr. McKinnon's letter, and most felt that the final paragraph of his letter addressed the impact of neighboring homes. I went back and I looked at the tape, and that really doesn't accurately capture what was discussed at 2 hours, 16 minutes and 45 seconds. So what Attorney Cronin said was, quote, his focus was on Maple because that's what we asked of him to focus on. Because that's where the folks came from before and were concerned. I think that letter covers it all. Chairman Dean goes on in that same section, interaction, to say, I'm going to go with a little bit more, perhaps slightly more generous interpretation. I'm going to take him on the face of it. If you remember this interaction, the Attorney Cronin was speaking, and I had suggested his letter, and I still suggest that the letter from McKinnon was given specific direction to look at the impact on property values on Maple Street. Mr. Cronin verified that with the statement that I just read. How we can now, so you talk about where would the judge say, oh yeah, we messed up. I'd say this is where we messed up. And it's an honest mistake. I don't think anybody's trying anything.
What does this have to do with the wetland fingers? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Bill?
Wasn't the last meeting about the wetland fingers and the special exception?
Yes.
It just seems like this is a detour.
Would it
Oh, wait.
maybe
No, it's about property,
make you,
about property value.
But that was the variance, right?
would it make
No,
it better if you changed
wasn't. It was the
impact of to impact on?
No, he's talking about he's
Yeah, so
talking about a whole,
part of the exception was we had to decide, I think it was, number 4, if I remember right, of things we had to consider. No, I think it was number 2.
yeah, part of the special exception requirement is that the special exception we grant should not decrease the property values in the area.
Yeah.
And this letter was offered as evidence that it would not.
Correct.
And you're thinking that McKinnon only considered the May Street property values and not the poor property values that Ms. Desert is concerned about.
Correct, because in the minutes, you'll see there's 4 criteria that we looked at. Criteria B was the proposed use will not adversely affect property values or improvement in the adjacent area. I don't know the exact percentages, but I believe that Maple Street only represents about 25% of the circumference of the property. It has to.
Can I look at your copy of McKinnon's letter? Do you mind?
I got some.
McKean's letter's right here if you want it.
McKeon or it's McKeon, right?
Yeah.
So again, I'm not looking to bog things down here, but I'm looking to say, if I'm a judge and I see did they do what they were supposed to do and look at the impact of this exception on property values? I've had their attorney tell me, no, we told McKinnon to look only at Maple Street. We got some risk there.
I don't see that in his letter. I think you can infer it from his letter.
How about the attorney's language, Mike? If you please, I'll read it again.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
His focus was on Maple because that's what we asked him to focus on.
Yes, ma'am.
I believe that the request was to put the emergency street, Maple Street, into the property, and that those are the wetlands that would be impacted. Ms. Desert's letter talks about the water tower, which is, has been accessed for years from Route 4. So that I think what they were asking referred to Maple Street, not to Route 4. And I think that's why McKeon did what he did, because it's the emergency road, it's the emergency road from Maple Street. It's not the access from Route 4 to the water tower, which the town put in and which has been there, I guess, for years. I didn't even know there was a water tower.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I guess what I'm asking at this point is just that we have the minutes of that meeting accurately reflect what was discussed and have the quote from the attorney placed into those minutes.
I think it's
I'd
there.
rather not cherry pick quotes out of
Okay.
minutes.
I think also, I
I would be willing to have
maybe
this
to
bank.
raise my hand or something here to speak. Focus,
You want to speak? When I'm done, I'll.
sorry,
the mic
sorry,
and
sorry,
go.
sure. I don't know how you indicate that I want to speak here. Okay.
I'd be willing to have Ms. Banker review the recording and I'd be happy to go over it again myself. And we can see what was said, whether we should give more weight to the attorney's statement that they asked for only Maple Street to be considered. I don't think that is certainly not the only evidence that I considered when I rendered my opinion, and it doesn't decide the case. We are also considering, when we think about property values, our own information, our own knowledge of the area, and what we have learned either in this proceeding or previous proceedings that are related to it. We had a wider coverage. We had another letter from McKeon, wider coverage in an earlier meeting. But I don't think this constitutes, I don't think this is a reason to rehear the matter.
So at this point, I'm not arguing to rehear the hearing. I'm arguing because
Oh, right.
we're on the topic of the meeting minutes.
Right,
And I
good point.
think the meeting minutes need to accurately reflect what's in place. The section that I just pointed out does not, in my opinion.
Thanks. Okay, so yeah, let's have Ms. Banker listen to that section of the hearing and re-summarize.
2 hours, 16 minutes, 45 seconds.
Yep.
Yeah.
And go around that area and try to get a better sense of what was going on and what we were talking about.
And like you read the entire last paragraph, he made a point about
I think you probably need to change impact code to impact on 272.
Yeah. The big sheet of paper.
Because an impact doesn't make of, it makes an impact on.
Impact on neighbor and health.
Yeah, I think.
that's all I had for the meeting minutes.
I'm reading it again and was there a point you wanted to make about that in particular?
A point I wanted to make about what?
This last paragraph?
Oh, just tell me, when you go back and you look at the tape, you'll see that you read the final paragraph
Mhm.
and that weighed heavy on your decision.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
My pen's yeah. So to get it out. What was it, 2 hours and 16 minutes?
For our 16 minutes and 45 seconds is where it starts.
Okay. So I think we ought to table the matter of approving the minutes until we get the revisions that Ms. Banker has. Right, and Madeline wants to say something. Go ahead, Madeline, sorry.
Perhaps it's irrelevant at this point, because we were talking about, just because somebody is asked to focus on something, it doesn't mean to exclusively look at something. If I say, I'd like you to look at this menu, check out the meat in particular, it's not saying don't look at the rest of the menu. It's just saying put a special attention on that. So that's not in any way telling him not to look at those things, and we have no reason to suspect that he didn't look at those things. We're just saying, pay special attention to this.
Thank you.
What is the reason for rehearing?
Hang on just a second, we gotta. So I think we're done with the minutes for now.
I've said everything I need to say about it.
Okay, I don't think we can vote to approve them until we see the changes that Ms. Banker is gonna render. So we'll deal with the finalization of the minutes at the next hearing.
Okay, thank you.
So let's continue our discussion about rehearing. I think that the changes that unless Whitney comes back and says, I can't imagine a situation in which, I can, but it's really far-fetched. I think with McKeon's letter as it's written and the other information that we had that we would have been considering, I don't see that we did anything wrong in our deliberations and our decision about the property values. So we're back on the rehearing. What did you want to say?
But that's basically what I wanted to say, is I think that for this whole application from the very, very beginning, we have worked really hard to do it absolutely correctly. We've talked a long time about every facet of what's happening. And we've listened to everybody that wants to talk to us. And we've heard them. And we've asked them to speak. And we've asked them to speak even when it wasn't really part of being appropriate for the zoning board. So I don't see that we could have done anything differently. And I'll go so far as to say, I don't think we could have done it better because we've listened to everybody and made reasoned, thoughtful decisions about how this should go. I think that's what I want to say. I think we've done it right. I think we've worked really, really hard to do it right.
Sometimes we work very hard to do it right and we can still make mistakes. And I think this desert is saying that, is saying that we didn't understand what McKeon was saying in his letter and that we should have considered the property values for the entire area rather than what she thinks he said, which is that she thinks he said, I'm only looking at the property values on Bay Street, Maple Street. Thanks.
I mean, do we think there's anything particular about the Route 4 properties
No.
that makes them dramatically different from the Maple Street properties?
No, I think if anything, the Maple Street properties would be affected more than the properties on Route 4 would be, the value of them.
I would concur.
And I don't think
I
there's
agree.
anything that. Thank you, Madeline. I don't think there's anything here.
I think in particular, this letter from the attorney summarizes.
Yeah.
The arguments against the rehearing. They echo a lot of the feelings that I have.
I respect everybody's opinion, but I do disagree. And I won't belabor it other than a couple of points I'll make. Mike, you gave us a training document, I'll call it, several months ago.
Yeah.
Looking at rehearings.
Yeah.
And it says, you talked about motion for rehearing, grounds for rehearing, legal and procedural errors. And one of the things that it calls out is misinterpreted evidence.
Yeah,
And
that's what I'm wondering about here.
That's- and
And I don't see it.
I do see it.
Okay.
And,
All right.
and we're gonna have to agree to disagree. But there's just a couple of things I'll point out to make sure I hit it all and I'll stop talking because it's obvious where this is gonna go. At line 227 of the not yet approved minutes, this is prior to the attorney standing up and presenting, that the letter was, the instructions to McKenna was only focused on Maple Street. It was well before that. The minutes say regarding condition B. Condition B being the proposed use will not adversely affect property values or improvements in the adjacent area. Chair Dean said that Mr. McKennan's letter only brought up Maple Street, not the surrounding Route 4 neighborhoods.
I thought you said line 227.
I didn't say
Oh, okay,
227.
yeah, all right, I see.
I mean, looking at the letter, it does say that it has frontage on Maple Street and US Route 4.
What's your point?
I'm just saying.
And when we get that, that's it.
He has considered the entire area.
No, the fact that he's relocation doesn't mean that it's considered the entire area.
I don't disagree that he seems to have been primarily focused on Maple Street. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
However, that's not the only thing that we take into consideration. And we don't have to base our decision about the property values solely on his solely on his letter. we can't just disregard it. You know, we can't say, oh, well, I don't believe he's right. I think it's gonna have a huge detrimental impact on the property values. We can't do that.
I mean, we have evidence that these are low value wetlands, so.
Also, I mean, aren't there more pieces of property on Maple Street? I mean, just looking at the number of them, I don't have the things in front of me, but we're talking about the one piece of property, which is the desserts, and then how many property owners are there along Maple Street? Which seems like you'd have to look more because there are more properties there.
Well,
More people are being affected.
I think we generally agree that that the property values argument isn't, we don't think that's gonna carry the day.
Okay, and I don't see that I'm gonna convince the other members of the board that it is.
All right.
If I lived on a budding property other than one on Maple Street, I would be a little bit upset that their properties were not considered as part of the special exception and the impact on their property values.
I think that's not
No
true.
evidence they weren't
That's not true.
considered.
They were considered. They may not have been considered in Mr. McKeon's letter, but they were considered by the board. So to say
You
that
can-
they were not considered in the special exception process is wrong.
So what evidence, where can you point that they were considered? Show me that.
Show me that they weren't.
the,
Come on.
wait a minute, wait a
Madeline,
minute.
that's beneath you.
Special Exception,
It's beneath you to say that the board did not consider the people's properties on Route
Show
4.
me where it was considered, how it was considered.
but
We did.
Dan,
We're telling you as individuals that we considered the overall property values in the area.
I stand down. I'm not gonna listen.
No,
I tried.
Dan, I think that it's really because this special exception is for low-value wetlands that will only impact Maple Street. They won't impact the desserts property on Route 4, because they're on Route 4, which is why she brought up the thing about the water tower. But from the shape of the land, if anybody's affected at all,
It's gonna be the
would
people
on
downhill.
Maple Street, it wouldn't be on Route 4. So Mr. Zert's request for us to rehear it doesn't seem to me to have much basis, because the hill goes down behind her house on Route 4. It doesn't go down from Maple Street to her house. That's why it was the physical geography that made me wonder about her letter, because I don't see how that emergency road up on the top of Maple Street could, those low value wetlands could have any impact on her property at all because of the geography. That's where I'm coming from.
Got it. Thank you, Susan. I don't see a need for a motion or anything further, Mr. Chair.
there were some other points the desserts made in their motion. In their opening second paragraph, not the opening one, but in their second paragraph, where they start talking, they are talking about the number of units per land and the previous variances. I don't think there's relevance from that to this, except that they object to the idea that the R1 district, that we're considering all this as part of the R1 district, which doesn't allow commercial. What we agreed to in that previous variance was that there would be more than one principal building. We weren't giving a variance for specific numbers of units or densities. What else? She talked about the matter before this Supreme Court regarding variances. We can't make decisions or deliberate based on what might happen in the future. We can only deliberate based on what exists today in law. So I'm not considering that.
That's a quick question on that.
Yeah.
Have we heard anything from New Hampshire Superior Court at this point?
Not yet,
Not
Till the
officially.
16th?
until the 13th, but as I think I told you guys last time, our attorney said they've got 60 and they'll take 70.
Yeah.
There's no consequence for them to go over the.
Thank you.
And the water tower issue, I think the lawyer makes a really good point about that. And I'm talking about Cronin, Bisson, and Zelinski. It's a low probability of failing. If it does fail, there's a high risk. I think it's down to the town to tell us, to weigh in and say, we think if you fill these water lands, it's gonna make the foundation of the water tower unstable and it could cause a collapse. Did they say that? No. Did they say anything about it? No. So I don't think there's anything to the water tower objection either. That's all I've got to say. Does anybody else want to deliberate further, or should we?
Just one more question.
Yeah.
Going back to the Superior Court. If the Superior Court were to come back and say, we've got issues, this special exception, if we were to pass it this evening, would become null and void?
Well,
No,
Oh, we passed it.
we haven't, it's already been approved. That special exception is already granted. If we decline to rehear the matter here, then the desserts can take it to Superior Court.
that's
The
not
Supreme Court has said it.
Sorry, that was clear. If the variance
Yeah.
that is now in the Superior Court, if the court is to rule that we're not comfortable with the way this whole thing went down, you need to start over again. Will this special exception go away?
No.
It'll stay on the books.
Yeah, they're independent matters.
They are independent matters.
Yeah. It is a good question, but they're independent matters. What's that?
Separability.
Is there any chance it would have caused us to act differently on this special exception if that variance were not granted?
I don't care to speculate. I'd be happy to chat with you about it out of session. I really would. I'd love to, because I don't mind doing that, but as a board, I don't think we can. I think we have to deal with what is, rather than what might be, as far as we can.
So the chair does not see any value in waiting for 10 days for this court case to be finished. The decision,
Oh, because it might take a lot more than 10 days.
we're already at 62, so.
What impact do you think that variance decision could have on this case?
I can't speculate as to what the judge is gonna say, but. there might be
No.
something very
Okay,
interesting.
all right, that's a good point. So what they could say,
I thought we weren't gonna speculate.
we're not gonna speculate. I'm just gonna tell you that that's a good point. We should not speculate. They won't, the courts don't overturn, they don't change the ZBA's ruling. What they will do is they will remand it. They'll tell us, you interpreted this law wrong. Here's the correct interpretation of that law. Rehear the case with that understanding. Or something like that, like you should have followed this procedure and you didn't. And you have to go rehear the case now with that procedure in.
Yeah.
So
It's,
This is a separate matter. This can be settled.
I'm wondering if Dan is thinking about the issue of the property values. I wonder if he's thinking that the Superior Court might say, you didn't consider the property values properly. You should have gotten another expert witness testimony, or you should have considered it differently. And that would apply in that case. And if that happened, we would know. If that were the case, we would know that we need to consider the property values and testimony from this appraiser differently and more carefully. And I think, I know, I said we shouldn't speculate, but it's,
I mean, how many appraisers do we need to tell us that filling in a couple holes, water holes, not gonna affect property values?
they don't need another. And if the Superior Court tells us that we have to, then I just don't see it happening. So I don't think there's any value in waiting.
And I think, Dan, you have to go back to the fact that, and you did it too, and your input really makes us look good, because you disagree with, is that every time something came up, we carefully considered it right then with all the information we had then, and we made a decision. And then it came up again, and we did the same thing. We made our decisions on all of this matter, which has gone on for more than a year, hasn't it? We have made all our decisions, given the best information we had at the time. And I don't think that even the law would say that we have to go back because now we have other information.
They might, if new evidence came up that was relevant to the case, you might very well say, you
Well,
need to rehear and consider this.
I
They-
think
they
the
might.
question,
they won't. But they haven't yet.
No, right.
the question here is not the content of it. The question is, did we behave appropriately? And was this decided in the correct, according to the correct manner with the information we had? And I feel that it has, so I don't feel that we need to rehear it because of that. Or as Mike says, that there's new information that, comes in and makes us have to do so. I mean, that's my feeling. But this is a procedural, they can appeal on the procedure. I don't feel that we have done anything that's procedurally calls for us redoing it.
I think you're right. I don't think we did anything wrong procedurally. Dan and Ms. Desert are saying that we may have interpreted evidence incorrectly. Susan's earlier point I thought was really important, and I want to make sure that it gets heard, about the context in which we considered the impact of property values. In that hearing, the special exceptions, we were talking about, or we were considering the filling of wetlands and the possible impact that could have on property values. And in that context, we have to consider which properties could have been affected. And I believe Susan's point was that it's only the property values downhill that could have been affected by filling the wetlands. And those were the Maple Street properties. That does not mean that nobody considered the Route 4 properties. I think rather, I know when I was thinking about, well, I say I know, I don't. My memory's not perfect either. I imagine that when I was thinking about it, I was focused on the Maple Street stuff, and I was aware of the Route 4 stuff and thinking, this isn't going to be affected over here. And I could not imagine a situation in which that would affect their property values. We're not talking about the whole development. We're not talking about what impact the entire development is going to have on property values. In that hearing, we were only considering what property value impact filling those particular wetlands would have. That's it. We are not considering the whole development and the effect it will have on the community. And that is why I think there's here. What's that?
Said that the effect that the development will have in the community, that was the content of the first decision.
All right, does anybody need any more time? We're not taking audience input. I'm sorry.
I was only asking a question.
Sure.
Order, but you go ahead and make your decision, and I can ask my question later. It's
Sure,
not relevant to your decision.
All right, great, thank you. Anybody need any more time to deliberate? All right, I'll call the question. The question before you is whether we shall deny the applicant's request to rehear the special exception request. All in favor of denying the application, say aye.
I,
We need a roll call vote. Madeline Johnson on the phone, how say you?
I say I vote to deny.
I vote to deny,
Susan Brown,
votes to deny.
Mike Dean deny.
I, Bill Finger, vote to deny.
In all opposed to denying the motion to rehear, please say aye.
Dan Regan, aye.
I think I should have asked him to say nay.
I just follow your directions, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Regan. Okay, so
Did you vote?
1, 2, 3, 4 in favor of denying the application, 1 opposed to denying the application. So your application for a rehearing has been denied. You know what your next step is if you want to appeal?
Am I able to speak at this meeting at all, even if it's a little bit later?
No, not on this matter. Sorry.
You're welcome to call me. I will help you.
Yep.
Whatever you need.
Think so.
I'm happy to have questions, not about this matter or this topic, but more generally, if you have a question you'd like to ask, I'd be happy to hear it. Yes, sir.
Because I'm advertising, and I'd just like to know whether you evaluated the property. The traffic that goes by for on the access route that this development plan.
It's never come up as part of our,
I need to know.
it's not on this one.
I think it's a planning board.
Yeah.
The other question is, you realize that because.
Sounds like
the
testimony.
RSA, Wetland Bureau, and the Conservation Commission will have the ultimate say on crossing of that wetland and the activity that goes on with that highway. Therefore, your decision, one way or the other, won't amount to a thimbleful of snow from Mount Washington. That's all I wanted to point out, is that the requirements that are part of the local communities thing are getting the horse before the cart. Because it's the Wetland Bureau and the Department of Transportation that will make the final decisions about the access that's going to be required for this development. You
Well,
understand that, right?
Let's
no, but,
let's not engage.
oh, okay. 'Cause you had a-
He's making public comment.
That's all I have to say.
Any other
As long as you
comment?
understand that.
So you go back to the minutes.
All right, the minutes are gonna be held until our next meeting. When Whitney can review the recording, provide us new information based on that recording, and
Okay, we don't do.
we're not gonna do it. Unless Whitney's been over there reviewing the recording while we've been talking.
I'm not that good.
Ms. Alfiero,
I have a question, and maybe Rob could answer, I don't really know, but. I wasn't aware that that was not, a commercial. Property or all residential?
there's a
It's
little,
all residential?
there's a small section of it that is in the CB, but the majority of that property is in the R1 district.
All right, so it should follow what she was saying, correct?
I don't know. It's not decided.
So many houses to a certain lot, et cetera. However, I want to add
Mhm.
that they want to change that. Put community business all the way around there. Which I don't know how that affects this project.
I don't think it
Well,
would.
I don't,
I
well,
don't see how it can, because this project is,
I wanna know if that's the reason.
The reason for what?
They're making it all commercial business property.
I think you'd have to ask the planning board or whomever's proposing that change. They would know.
Yeah, there's no proposal to rezone that.
What?
I said, there's no proposal to rezone that area.
It's in the thing.
You're talking about the Route 4? It's down the road. It's not this land. We have a district called Route 4 zone.
Yeah,
Yeah, they wanna convert that. That's the hearing tomorrow night at the planning board.
right.
Convert that back to CB. It was CB originally. It was changed to become Route 4 as a sort of form-based zoning. And they don't like that. It's been sort of a failure as far as the planning board is concerned. So there's a proposal to change the Route 4 zone that currently consists now, which is this little, oh, pink, at least that's what, change that back to CB, which would be this red here. But this land up here, which is the Laramie Farms property, no change. No change proposed.
And it wouldn't affect the project anyway, because the project,
Good.
because the project,
The law's a law.
because the project started before any changes were made. Before the zoning changes.
No, but I'm saying the R1, the law's a law. What you brought up.
Yeah, that hasn't been discussed. Appreciate it.
I just still can't believe it.
Do you have any questions for us, as long as it's not on the subject matter that we just discussed or your application? All right, we're adjourned. Next regular meeting is the second Tuesday in February. I expect we'll see people back here for that. At the very least, we'll be doing minutes. Maybe that will be all we do.
Do we have any projects in the pipeline, Rob? Any applications that you think might be coming up?
Nothing that I've heard yet, but possibly,
You want to speculate?
possibly, yeah,
I would love to.
it's the brewery.
yeah, but that
You're gonna come
building
back.
isn't sold. He's still got a
No,
for
he's
sale
gone.
sign on it.
Did you hear?
It's-
He hasn't
sold the
sold it
property.
yet.
Yeah,
And the guys that are gonna
But
open
But the
the
brewery guys are
got
trying to
another
get
partner.
financing, aren't they?
they're the ones buying it.
They what?
Aren't you happy?
Wait, what, who's buying it?
The brewery is buying the space.
It's trying to, well, the for sale sign's still up.
Yeah, they've got a purchase and sale. They're gonna close this month.
They got it? Well, they haven't put it on the sign, that's all.
They don't pull the sign down till the closing happens.
Yeah,
In the back corner there. What's this?
well, but sometimes they put it under contract sign.
Like E